Have you ever seen this painting called Flower Clouds by Odilon Redon? It is nothing if not bizarre. It's also dreamy, spiritual, yet haunting, all at the same time. At first glance, you may think Redon's artwork is simply a physical representation of a fever dream. But the deeper meaning is actually quite beautiful. Just like the figures you see before you floating through the brilliant, luminous sea and sky, I'd like to take you on a journey into the mind of a man who found a medium to channel his madness. And that medium just so happened to consist of charcoal and pastels. Will you join me? Odilon Redon was a French symbolist painter born to an affluent family in April 1840 in Bordeaux, France. He had poor health as a child, perhaps due to epilepsy, and was sent to live with his uncle on the family's winemaking estate. Redon spent most of his childhood days alone. Due to his health challenges, he attended school for the first time at the age of 11, where he immediately received an art award for drawing. As a result, his parents set him up to study with an artist named Stanislas Guérin. You may be interested to know that some experts now believe that Redon having epilepsy may have played a part in his unique art style. According to an article in the Journal of Clinical Neuroscience, quote, "Temporolimbic epilepsy can lead a person's mind to venture a few steps beyond common perceptions of reality, and to diverge from making art that duplicates typical representations of what one physically sees. This type of a dreamy state can liberate the mind in a manner that is useful in perceiving and expressing the surreal and the abstract in art." End quote. So, although Redon had to endure this painful condition, it may have played a part in helping him access such unique perspectives on the world. Stanislas Guérin taught Redon many valuable lessons that helped him throughout his career. Redon spoke of him saying, quote, "His first words were to advise me that I was myself and that I should never make a single mark with a pencil unless my feeling and my reason were in it." End quote. Guérin also introduced him to many prominent artists of the time, including Eugene Delacroix and Francisco Goya, who influenced Redon's art immensely. He eventually moved to Paris and became friends with botanist Armand Clavaud, who introduced him to the discoveries of Charles Darwin, as well as Hinduism and Buddhism. This led Redon to take his art in a more spiritual direction. In 1870, Redon was drafted for the Franco-Prussian War, a battle that France lost, further adding to his disposition toward melancholy. When he returned, he started creating noirs, which were monochromatic charcoal drawings, like this one, called "The Eye, Like a Strange Balloon, Mounts Toward Infinity," which you can see on the screen right now. You may wonder why such an expressive painter would resort to solely using black and white. Redon once said, quote, "Black should be respected. It does not please the eye and does not awaken sensuality. It is the agent of the spirit, much more than the splendid color of the palette or the prism." End quote. In 1874, Redon's father died without a dime to his name. This led Odilon to begin creating lithographs because he could make them at scale to better support himself. In 1880, he got married to a Creole woman named Camille Fault. He spoke of her saying, quote, "I believe the yes that I uttered on the day of our union was the expression of the most complete and unadulterated certainty I have ever experienced. A certainty more complete even than my vocation." End quote. Shortly thereafter, the couple would have to deal with the loss of their 6-month-old son. This event caused Redon to spiral into a depressive state and brought his art into a darker, more spiritual realm. This is one of my favorite pieces of art by Redon. It is called The Guardian Over the Seas. As you can see on the screen, a giant floating head with a halo gently watches over a tiny sailboat making its way through the water. There is something unsettling but comforting about this piece all at the same time. It's strange because the floating head is obviously a spiritual being, but not the typical angel usually depicted in art. He has an ordinary-looking face, besides his enormous eyes. He looks young, yet his devoted gaze feels like that of a parent watching over their child at play. The sailboat looks so vulnerable and small, yet the creature's presence elicits an overwhelming sense of calm that nothing bad will happen to it. Let me know what you think about this drawing in the comment section down below. In the 1890s, Redon's work evolved from working in black to using pastels as his medium of choice. Despite this change, he continued to explore the ideas of spirituality and subjectivity. Some historians believe that this transition was a result of increased happiness in his life due to the birth of his son, Ari, in 1889. Thereafter, Redon's work was soaked in color. He began creating still lifes and portraits. One of the portraits is shown on your screen right now, of a woman with a flat affect staring into space. Her clothing and the background are dripping in color, almost as if to depict the woman's internal state. Paul Gauguin once said of the artist, quote, "I do not see why it is said that Odilon Redon paints monsters. They are imaginary beings. He is a dreamer, an imaginative spirit." End quote. This certainly applies to the painting shown on your screen right now, called the Cyclops. It depicts a dream world with fairies, monsters, and spirits. A large cyclops appears to smile as it gazes over a mountain where a sleeping woman lies. The large eye is the sharpest feature of the art, but it has a gentleness to it. Perhaps it is peering at the woman out of adoration. Maybe it's looking at the viewer, acting as her guardian and protector. Something that strikes me about this painting is how well Odilon Redon incorporates the viewer. This gives his art a life and relevance to it that is unique and intriguing. Let me know what you think of this artwork in the comment section below. Redon wrote of the transition to color in his art, saying, quote, "If the art of an artist is the song of his life, a solemn or sad melody, I must have sounded the keynote of gaiety in color." End quote. Redon's art became more appreciated toward the end of his life, and he passed away in 1916. Many believe his death was brought on due to the dread he faced over his son fighting on the front lines during World War I. When I reflect on the life and legacy of Odilon Redon, one word stands out to me, and that is vulnerability. Although sharing art is inherently vulnerable, it seems to me that Redon's art is uniquely so. He was brave enough to process his spiritual thoughts and emotions through art and put it out for the world to see. Therefore, I believe he gave the greatest gift to his audience that he could, the gift of his story and his truest self, even if it may seem a bit strange to some people. I would like to end this video with one last quote by Odilon Redon, who said, quote, "My drawings inspire, and they are not to be defined. They place us, as does music, in the ambiguous realm of the undetermined." Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.